Welcome to the Wednesday's broadcast of MB Today. I'm Mark Baker, and in today's program, we're going to continue talking about my best friend, the Holy Spirit. We've been looking at his ministry in bringing revelation. We've been talking about developing relationship with him. In yesterday's program, we ended in Galatians chapter 1, and I'm going to go back and look at some things Paul said here. Notice what he said. He said, starting in verse 6, I marvel that you were so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Christ. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be cursed. As we said before, so say it now again, if any man preach unto you any other gospel than what you have received, let him be cursed. Now, as we're looking at this, before we move any further, I want to think about this. If anyone preach any other gospel to you, the first thing that people come to mind when they hear this is somebody blatantly preaching error. But there are people who preach tradition and different things that pull you away from relationship with the Holy Spirit. You'll hear people say, well, God is in control. Well, friend, if you really honestly look at it, God has given us authority. I hear people say, well, God is in control. Well, did he choose your toothpaste for you this morning? Did he choose what you ate for breakfast, or did you choose it? You see, friend, we come up with these things without really giving them much thought. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're not going back to a relationship with the Holy Spirit. We don't teach people about the things that I'm talking about in the majority of congregations today. Carol and I have been part of what we would call Word of Faith churches. We've been part of full gospel churches. We've been part of what's called Spirit-filled churches, and I don't like the labels. I actually like one lady who's a head of a ministerial association. I once heard her say, it said that she prefers the phrase believing believers. What is a belief? A belief is a firm persuasion based on knowledge gained in relationship. I like that. I'm a believing believer. I have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. When I hear something, I take it to him. I ask him, and he will take me to scriptures. If it's correct, he'll show it to me. But if it's incorrect, he will show it to me. I don't take everything I hear from the pulpit as gospel truth. I go back to the Holy Spirit. I have a personal relationship with him. I trust that my pastors have a word from me that comes from the Holy Spirit, but I'm not depending on them to impart that revelation, because it has to come from the Holy Spirit himself. As we've seen in John chapter 14 and John chapter 16, the Holy Spirit takes the words of Jesus, he reveals them to us. In John chapter 6, we saw in verse 63, the words that Jesus speaks are spirit and life. They produce life. And so when you're hearing something that is not producing life, it's not producing manifestations, ask yourself, is this a perverted gospel? It's just like an airplane. I spent 6 years in the Navy working on F-18 aircraft. If they're flying, we were stationed in New Orleans, if they were flying to California, well, there's a certain direction they have to fly, but if the navigation system was off just even the slightest degree, they could end up completely in a different location than they were planning to be. It doesn't have to be blatant error to take you off course. It doesn't have to be blatant error to take you off course. For many have diluted the message with their traditions. Many have diluted the message with their theology. Many have diluted the messages with their doctrines. But it is not the doctrines of men. It is not the theologians. It is not the traditions of our churches that will bring the power and the glory so many seek to stay. It is those who will separate to be with the Spirit, those who will come and allow time for the relationship to be developed. He is the teacher. He is the guide. He is the counselor. And to him we must look if we are to receive revelation of the Son's words. So many do not understand this relationship, and therefore they do not walk in any level of revelation. For they understand not that revelation can only be found within relationship. But those in the pulpit, are they modeling the relationship? Are they modeling the relationship and showing people the way? Are they showing them the path to move into this place where revelation does abound? For the incorruptible seed, as Peter refers to it in 1 Peter 1:23, must be planted within the soul. The Spirit will take that seed and he will begin to unpack it. He will begin to reveal the life contained within. For did not the Son tell us that the words that he speaks, they are spirit and they are life. They are imparted by the Holy Spirit, and they produce the life of the Father within us. But our souls must be transformed. Our souls must be renewed, and it is the Spirit who enables this process to occur. Many will study the written word. They will study it from the lens of theology. They will study it from the lens of doctrine. They will study it, and they will gain insights and ideas that are not of the Spirit. They believe that they have moved into a place of revelation, but they have moved there of their own efforts. And so they have moved into what Paul refers to as a perverted gospel. A perverted gospel is a gospel that flows from self. It is a gospel that flows from sources that are not of the Spirit himself. The Spirit is calling us to this place of relationship to prepare us for the Son's soon return. The Spirit is calling us to this place of relationship with the Son's soon return. For soon the Son shall return, but will he return for a glorious bride? Will he return for a bride that understands the true gospel? What is the true gospel? The true gospel is the message of the revelation of Jesus Christ. The revelation that cannot be imparted outside of relationship with the Spirit of God. For it is the Spirit who has come to teach. It is the Spirit who has come to guide. It is the Spirit who has come to lead the way. But how many of us today are looking to him? We look not because we understand not. We look not because we understand not. We understand not the presence. We understand not the power. And so we do not look to him this hour. He is here to help us. He is here to teach us. He is here to guide us. But are we yielding? Are we looking? Are we listening this day? For the Spirit is with us each and every day within these programs, imparting revelation to those with ears to hear, imparting revelation for those with eyes to see. But so many have allowed their spiritual ears and their spiritual eyes to be closed by the traditions and doctrines of men, to be closed by the social media, to be closed by the news, by the sitcoms, the TV. Paul speaks of those who have waxed cold. To wax cold is not something that happens immediately. It is something that happens over a process of time. We make one choice to look here. We make one choice to look there. We make one choice to not sit with the Spirit this day. Over time, calluses begin to form within the soul. Calluses that, if left, will soon become strongholds used by the enemy to pull us away from the presence. There's so many who have a heart to serve the Father. There's so many who have a heart to serve the Father. But they understand not the relationship that can only be found in the presence. And it is the presence that will bring us to the place of freedom. It is the presence that will bring us to the place of manifestation. We need not run seeking healing. We need not run seeking finances. We need not run seeking answers to our needs. For all has been given, as Peter tells us in 1 Peter 1:23, in 1 Peter chapter 2, in verse 3. God has given us everything pertaining to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who has called us to glory and virtue. But are we accessing this knowledge? How do we access it? We access it in time spent with the Holy Spirit. He is with us to guide. He is with us to lead. He is with us to show the way. But so many are not acknowledging him this day because they do not understand the presence. He is a foreign entity to them. He is a foreign entity to them because they have never been modeled by those in the pulpit. Because to those in the pulpit, so many this day, they know not the Spirit. They do not understand his ways. They do not understand his means. They do not understand his frequencies. For it is upon the frequencies of the Spirit the words of Jesus are communicated. To receive the words of Jesus, we must tune into the frequencies of the Spirit. For the words of Jesus are communicated across the frequencies of the Spirit. And as the words of Jesus brings the manifestation, it is the manifestation that provides us the means of the Father. The Spirit has talked to us about the frequencies. He has talked to us about the means. But here we find the key to the communication. For Jesus speaks, the Holy Spirit takes and begins to broadcast. He broadcasts on a frequency available to only those who will enter into relationship. Like any other relationship, this will require a commitment of time, a commitment of effort to pursue each and every day. For this relationship is not something we look to now and then look to when we have time later. It is something that we must make time for each and every day. The depth of our relationship with the Spirit will be a direct reflection of the willingness we have to pay the price in time, to separate, to be alone with Him, to allow Him to lead and guide and show the way. But are we listening? Are we looking to Him to stay? He wants to show us. He wants to lead us. He wants to guide us. But how many of us are willing to yield to Him this day? He's with us as we share each and every day on these programs. And He's sending forth the message to you, the message of relationship, because He desires to see the provision of the Father manifest within your life. But that provision can only come as a manifestation of the revelation imparted with the relationship. So the Spirit asks if you and I, will we turn off the music, will we turn off the noise and turn to Him this day and allow Him to begin to teach us and guide us? Yes, the stillness is not something our soul will like, but the soul must be trained. The soul must be trained by the new creation, the spiritual man within. For we are not called to live by the soul. We are not called to live by the natural man. We're called to live according to the Spirit. Did not Paul tell us in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 16, I know no man after the flesh. And how is this possible? Because Paul entered into the relationship with the Holy Spirit. And it is through the revelation imparted by the Spirit that Paul looked and interacted with those around him. He learned to live from the eyes of his spirit and not the eyes of his natural man. For the natural man can only see the flaws. The natural man can only see the mistakes. But the eyes of the Spirit, they look through the lens of love and can only see the best in each and every person. They can only see the best in each and every person. How many of us will take heed to this call this day? There are those who say that the Son's return is far away, that we have time to prepare, but they're wrong. They're wrong. The Spirit explicitly tells us this day they are wrong. For time is at its end. Time is at its end. The transition between the age of the church and the age of the Antichrist has begun. The Father has not told us the time. The Father has not told us the hour. Only He knows. But the Spirit has showed us we are in that season. We're in the final minute of the final hour. Soon we shall be with the King at the wedding feast. If only we'll take heed to this call and listen and allow the Spirit to lead and guide. Santos, the Spirit of God has been pulling upon you to be separated with Him. Your family and work responsibilities, you've put priority over Him for long enough. And Santos, the Holy Spirit is speaking to you through this message today. He's speaking to you and telling you, you need to come to Him. That situation in your family, that sickness that your child was born with, God did not place that sickness upon your child, Santos. That sickness came about because you did not walk in your authority as the head of your household. There's no condemnation. The Spirit of God is not pointing this out to bring condemnation to you, Santos. He's bringing it to you so you have an understanding. Jesus made provision for your child's healing. You have expended so much money, so much effort, buying books, buying messages, buying this and that, Santos, to get to the place where you can see your child healed. As the head of the household, the Spirit of God is speaking to you now, Santos. And I sense by the Spirit that you have accessed this program in your native language of Spanish, and you're listening to it through the dubbing feature on YouTube in Spanish. And so I speak to you in your native language, Santos, and tell you the piece that you have been missing is this relationship. If you as the head of the household will begin to separate to be alone with the Holy Spirit, He will lead you to the proper scriptures. In Psalm 107, it tells us, Santos, that He sent His word and healed our diseases. What the Spirit is showing me this day for you is if you separate and get alone with Him, meditate on the scriptures He shows you, He will begin to bring revelation to them, and that revelation will be manifested within your child's body. There is complete freedom available, but you've been lied to by your church elders. This is not God's will. God did not place the sickness upon your child. The initial open door was because you did not walk in your authority as that household, but you weren't trained how. And that's why the Spirit tells you, Santos, there's no condemnation because you weren't trained. You weren't modeled the truth. But he led you to this program, and it's not by accident. You're sitting there listening now. And yes, Santos, the Holy Spirit is speaking through me to you directly. I know you just asked that question. This is real. This is the Holy Spirit. He cares about you this much that he interrupted this program just for you, Santos. So are you going to open your ears? Are you going to listen what the Spirit of God is saying? He's there with you as you're listening. And so for the rest of us, once again, Paul says in verse 11, Galatians chapter 1, verse 11, I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached to me is not after man. For I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Jesus Christ. We're taught the revelation of Jesus Christ in times alone with the Holy Spirit. And this is why I believe we're not seeing power manifest in the church, because so few ministers understand this relationship. It's foreign to so many people. And it's something that really needs to be modeled. I went through 2 years of Bible school. I saw it modeled, but I didn't take heed to what I was seeing. I heard people talk about talking with the Holy Spirit, relationship, different things, and I experienced manifestation of His presence, and I actually became addicted to the manifestations that would satiate my physical being. And it wasn't until, and I've shared this with you before in the programs, a winter day in Claremore, Oklahoma, the Holy Spirit, I was out working, and the Holy Spirit led me to a private parking area. There was nobody around by Claremore Lake. And I got out of the car, and I just was so hungry for Him. And I knelt there in the snow, and at that morning in the snow in Claremore, Oklahoma, the Holy Spirit introduced Himself to me. And that was the beginning of many, many, many beautiful hours spent fellowshipping with Him. And the more time I spent with Him, the more I realized how frustrated He is by what's being preached, because it's not the revelation of Jesus Christ. Yes, it may contain pieces of it and parts of it, but we're not called. And he just reminded me of that commercial back in the 1980s when I was growing up. They would talk about chicken nuggets and talk about, well, parts is parts. You didn't really know what you were getting in the nugget was the point of because they were just pieced together from scraps of the plants. Well, the Holy Spirit is telling me, you don't need parts as parts. You need the true gospel, unadulterated gospel. He does place us in churches. He does place us under pastors. But we can only protect ourselves by individually making this commitment to spend time with the Holy Spirit. You may be praying and believing for your church to have a movement in the Spirit, but it begins with you, friend. For the church to move into the deeper waters, the people must first move into the deeper waters. And so many times the church is unable to go deep because the people have not first gone deep. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, Paul said, when you come together, every one of you has a tongue, has a word, has this and that. But when we come together, most of us have not spent any time with the Spirit of God. We probably spent Saturday watching college football or something like that, or movies. And there's a lot of people who have the news playing as they're getting ready for church. They're not coming in prepared. And for this reason, we're not seeing the deeper things of the Spirit. Our focus is outward and is carnal. And Paul actually talked about the fact that those who preach such a gospel that's corrupted by the things of this world should be cursed. I heard one pastor several years ago, I heard one pastor once stand behind the pulpit and say, you don't need to watch the news because I watch it for you. I'm a news junkie. I would never confess that as a minister. Do I ignore the news? No, sometimes we look at the headlines, but I'm not going to sit and become a so-called news junkie. Because where my focus needs to be for you, friend, is in my time with the Holy Spirit. Because that's where I receive the revelation to bring to you in these programs. The manifestation that you seek, Victoria, will flow out of that relationship that we're talking about. You've been through so many dark places. You've been abused, Victoria. I know what your husband did to you. The Holy Spirit just showed me. I know that you have physical scars on your body from places where he cut you. I know the beatings that you've undergone. You got into the situation because as a child, growing up in church with parents who were pastors, but not preaching the true gospel, you didn't know the love of God because it was never modeled to you by your parents. And so as they were pastors, Victoria, serving in church, you grew hardened and jaded towards God. But he's brought you full circle. I can see you sitting in that shelter, watching this program on your phone, Victoria. You've managed to escape, but in your head, you're still tormented. You have the memories that torment you, that you have trouble sleeping at night. And once again, the Holy Spirit's interrupted this program because he knew that you would watch it from that shelter on your phone, Victoria. You need to understand that God is love. Your parents were not preaching the true gospel because they were in a denominational setting and they were preaching what they knew, but they were not preaching from a place of love. And so that's why you felt so neglected. And that's how you ended up in the arms of that man who did those awful things to you. You need to understand that the Holy Spirit was with you through all those years of abuse and all those suffering. And it would have been much worse if he hadn't been there. But it was your choice that led to that place. It was your choice to reject. But there's no condemnation, Victoria, because you were not given a good choice. But now the choice is here. The Holy Spirit, who is love, longs to pour out the love of God into your heart. Will you receive him and allow him to minister that love to you? He'll take away those pains and those hurts. And God has an amazing plan with you. And Victoria, the Holy Spirit's shown you the path. And he's talked to you this day. Yield to him and allow him to show you. He'll help you. I guarantee you, he'll help you just as he did me. And he wants me to let you know, I can in some way relate. My situation wasn't as bad as yours, Victoria. But in the past, I was in a relationship that was abusive. I was actually diagnosed with PTSD because of the things I endured. But just like for you, Victoria, it was my relationship with the Holy Spirit that brought the love of God and helped me to walk away from that past. And he's giving you the freedom and the doorway today. Well, friends, you need to understand this relationship. It's so beautiful. This is where we find the love of God. This is where we find the acceptance of God. Paul talked about the revelation of Jesus Christ here in Galatians chapter 1. The revelation begins in relationship. If you're going to see the power of God manifesting the way you desire, you're going to have to come into relationship. And Fernando, you've served God so faithfully for all these years. Your congregation loves you. They've been praying for you. And Fernando, your heart has been to see the move of God. Holy Spirit brought you here. He brought you here by purpose to answer your prayer. Because you've been praying for years and you've served so faithfully that congregation. And in man's eyes, Fernando, that may not seem like a large congregation, but every single person the Holy Spirit's brought to your care is precious to him. God's not worried about the numbers. You shouldn't be worried about the numbers. And what the Holy Spirit wants me to tell you, Fernando, as we come to the close of this program, is if you will just start taking time away from all those committees and get away from the busyness of the church, allow the Holy Spirit to raise up men and women who can do the hospital visitation, who can take over the affairs of the church. And if you will commit yourself to just separate and do what I've been talking about in these programs, to be alone with the Holy Spirit, Fernando, your church can become a house of glory. That's the word the Holy Spirit's given me now, is your church can become the house of glory. You don't need to pray for church growth anymore, Fernando. You don't need to pray for revival or outpourings. You just need to step away from the busyness of ministry, follow the example of the elders in Acts chapter 6 in the first few chapters, and say, it's just not reasonable. I need to be alone with the Holy Spirit, because it's in that place you'll receive the revelation that will bring the manifestation of the glory you seek. Everything comes back to relationship, friends. Everything comes back to relationship. And that's what the Holy Spirit's teaching us and showing us this. He's helping us understand. We don't need to be seeking outward. We need to be turning inward to Him, allowing Him to teach us, give Him an opportunity to guide and lead. He's with us each and every day, but how many of us acknowledge Him? And so we've seen Him move a couple different ways in this program. He's spoken to several different people. These are manifestations of His presence. And you see, it's not seeking those manifestations, it's seeking Him. And He's demonstrating to us the movements and the gifts. It's not something that we're trying to conjure up or anything like that, but in this, as we go back and review the programs and everything else, even though He may be speaking to a specific individual, what the Holy Spirit's telling me right now, friend, is He's demonstrating to you. He's demonstrating to you the confirmation of the revelation received in times of relationship. And this is for you. This is what He wants for you in these times of troubles preceding Jesus' return. But as we come to the end of our program today, let me remind you once again of our book, Who is the Holy Spirit? This book contains a very powerful revelation. We've received a lot of testimonies of lives being changed. We look at the Holy Spirit's work in our lives. And we have up on the screen our Amazon page. And I believe this book will be a real blessing to you. And I encourage you to go and grab a copy. There are some of you, I just heard, there are some of you who don't necessarily like Amazon. And I understand that. In the back end, we're going to begin working on building out a shop functionality on a website so you can order these things directly from us. We're not there yet, but this is something the Holy Spirit has said is coming. So just keep on the watch. It will be here, and we'll be able to offer that to you. Friends, once again, the Holy Spirit is my very best friend, and I've spent so much time with Him, and He's demonstrating to us this relationship He desires with all of us. And I pray that as you watch these programs, you're gaining revelation and gaining a hunger for this relationship. But we're out of time now, and as we close out, let me remind you once again, you can live your life to the fullest, walking by the faith of the Son of God.